I wearing this shirt too much? Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So Spider-Man No Way Home, as expected, obliterated the box office this weekend and put an end to the media and Hollywood narratives that people weren't going to the theater this year because of fear of the pandemic. We all know that that's bullshit. They're not going to theaters because you're not putting anything in theaters worth going out for. Because let's be honest, 90% of the movies that came out this year were complete garbage.
That is one big pile of shit.
A lot can be said, and there's a correlation to be made, both good and bad, about what Hollywood can learn from the success of No Way Home. On the positive side of things, Hollywood now has another example of what happens when you give the fans what they want. Call it nostalgia bait, call it fan service. Bottom line is, people do get excited when you bring something back from the past and treat it with respect. And it's not because they don't want to let go of the past, but usually because no one creates anything modern that's worth giving a shit about.
That makes sense.
We all know that this movie's success has a direct connection to the prospect of beloved characters returning. This is where Disney fucked up with Star Wars, because they brought back classic characters, but once word got around that they were treated like shit, people started to check out. Word of mouth is everything to a movie. And No Way Home had great buzz around it, and that's why it was this successful. Now, on the flip side of things, there is a negative to these large box office numbers that not a lot of people are going to talk about. The very success of Spider-Man, or anything that's an established IP already, is the precise reason that original ideas in Hollywood are hard to come by. Studios aren't going to back original ideas when all audiences show up for is superhero movies. So when you ask the question, why isn't Hollywood creative anymore? Well, look at this box office return and tell me. Why bother taking a chance on something when you have a sure thing like Spider-Man at your disposal?
Man, I'm tired of being right.
This is a business, first and foremost, and they have to make money. So they're going to make more movies based on what people support most. This is not great for creators who like to push the envelope and think outside the box, but that's just how things are working right now.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now?
So as you can see, a lot can be learned from the financial success of Spider-Man No Way Home. Apparently, however, at least one person doesn't quite understand why people showed up in droves to watch this movie this weekend. And unfortunately, that person is Tom Holland. Now, as I've stated many times, I've been very critical of Tom Holland in the past. But I did finally give him some praise in the role based on his work in No Way Home. And just as soon as I'm ready to let him establish his own identity as Spider-Man, this happens. He doesn't really seem to be all that interested in continuing the character, and it's for very questionable reasons.
And here we go.
While discussing the future of the Spider-Man franchise with People magazine, he expressed that it might be time for him to say goodbye to the character. He said, quote, "I've loved every minute of it. I've been so grateful to Marvel and Sony for giving us the opportunity and keeping us on and allowing our characters to progress. It's been amazing." He goes on to say, "And that's why for me, I don't want to say goodbye to Spider-Man, but I feel like we might be ready to say goodbye to Spider-Man."
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now, I've seen conflicting reports as to whether or not he's actually signed on to more movies or not, but it should be noted that this quote was from before this movie was released. So a $600.5 million box office haul could change everyone's tune. And I have to believe that if they throw enough money at him, he would most likely return. After all, money talks and bullshit runs the marathons.
Show me the money.
But it could also be more than a money thing for him. He has expressed interest in stepping away from acting altogether in order to start a family, and that money isn't the most important thing to him. I can respect that, and if that's his desire and the reason for him wanting to stop, then I say go for it. There's also been this trend in Hollywood over the years where certain actors don't like to play the same character for too long for fear of being typecasted, which I never really understood, and apparently Hugh Jackman didn't understand it either.
Go fuck yourself, pretty boy.
But it's Tom Holland's next comments that could be taken a multitude of ways. He says, quote, "I would love to see a future of Spider-Man that's more diverse and he even mentions Spider-Gwen and Spider-Woman as possibilities. He says we've had 3 Spider-Mans in a row, we've all been the same, it'd be nice to see something different. He's also expressed interest in the past in seeing a live-action movie based on Miles Morales. Now, I don't have an issue with those characters existing in the Sony Spider-Man universe in some way, but as far as those characters carrying this franchise, I don't really have an interest in that.
I don't care!
My interest in Spider-Man extends to Peter Parker and his rogues gallery, and I certainly don't have an interest in characters like Miles Morales or Gwen Stacy just existing to fill some kind of invisible diversity quota. If there is an interesting story to tell, then I say go for it. But that doesn't mean that Peter Parker can't exist at the same time. Peter Parker should always be the focal point of the Spider-Man universe.
Damn right, that's the only way I work, Cap.
And based on this weekend's box office numbers, I'd say good old-fashioned Peter Parker is what the public seems to be generally interested in, whether it's Tom Holland or someone else. Sometimes I think people in Hollywood kind of overthink things and think that the general public is concerned with things that we really aren't concerned with. Most normal moviegoers just want to see a good story with good characters that they are familiar with. To most normal people, the race or gender of a character has no bearing on whether or not they can enjoy that movie or not.
No shit.
To me, when people bring up things like race and gender, especially when it pertains to movies, it comes off as being very disingenuous and very tone deaf. And it feels like they're just trying to gain brownie points with the Twitter crowd. We know why a massive amount of people showed up this weekend to see No Way Home. And it's not because of the race or gender of any of the characters. They showed up because of their connection to specific characters in this movie.
Give me a blonde-haired white boy so I can enjoy that shit!
It just kind of amazes me that Tom Holland hasn't caught on to this yet, because I'm sure that Sony has. Do you think that Sony is looking to move away from Peter Parker after this weekend? I don't. He's clearly a natural-born moneymaker. Whether or not Tom Holland continues as the character remains to be seen, but I'd like to finish this video off with a Stan Lee quote. He said what he likes about the Spider-Man costume is that anyone reading a Spider-Man comic in any part of the world can imagine that they themselves are under that costume, and that's a good thing. Imagine for a second people using their imagination to see themselves in someone that doesn't necessarily look like them. What a marvelous world that would be.
So I strongly suggest that you wake the fuck up.
So let me know what you thought about all this in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time right here on Real Shift. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Y'all be cool. Right on.